Hey everyone, and welcome to Isms by Josie. Today we're going to be doing another itty bitty knit kit from Five Below. For my returning subscribers, thank you so much for tuning in, and for my new viewers, please consider subscribing, share, hit that like button, leave a comment below, and click on that notification bell for future videos. So today, you guys, we're going to be doing another itty bitty knit kit, and we'll be working on Baby Ghostie. So this was a viewer request, and I did end up finding the kit for it. If you have any requests, leave a comment below. If you don't want to wait for me to find the kit, I would recommend taking a clear image of the instructions and sending that to me, and I can try to help you out with that. Alright, so let's see what's in this kit. What we have here is stuffing, knitting needles, plastic needle, felt stickers, and spools of yarn. Let's check this out. So here's the instructions. Then we have one spool of yarn, a little pouchy here. Then we have the other spool of yarn. And then in the pouch, we have our stuffing, our felt stickers, knitting needles, and plastic needle for sewing. So I'm just going to put the stuffing back in the pouch for now, since we're not using it, as well as the felt stickers and plastic needle for sewing. Set this aside, pull out the instructions. I like these instructions. I always mention that there's illustrations along with some written instructions to help you do everything you need to do for this kit. It also comes with a convenient ruler for you to do your measurements on. Alright. So this video is a supplement to this kit. So if you really want to make Baby Ghostie, I highly recommend that you go find this kit. You can either find it online or in stores if it has not sold out yet. In this video, if you need to speed up or slow down the video, there's a gear button at the corner of the screen. You can click on that and you can go fast or slow. If you don't need to hear me talking, you can always lower the volume on your device and then click on the closed caption CC button. Alright, so let's get straight into this. In the beginning of the instructions, it tells you a measurement for the length of tail. We're gonna take this yarn here, and I'm gonna try to get in here and pull out a chunk. I want to make sure I get the end. This one here is the outside end, and you could grab this, but it'll roll around and you'll have to remove this part. If you grab it from the inside, then there's a chance. Ooh, that's weird. It's already poked out here. Let me see if I can find where that is. Yeah, if you can pull it out from the inside, then I got lucky. I got so lucky. If you pull out a chunk, that's fine. You'll eventually use it, but when you pull it out from the inside, just put a little weight here because it's such a tiny spool, and you can continue pulling and it doesn't roll around. So I recommend doing that. Okay, just removing this knot. All right, let's get this done. So I'm just gonna measure out my tail length, like I said. So I'm just doing that off the side here with the instructional booklet. I don't want to show the booklet so much, just because it's, you know, copyright. So yeah, copyright, but you can do it on your end. Right, so I have a pinch of where it is. I just want to make sure I am pinching with my left hand. This is for righty, but I want to switch to underhand. So here's the tail, right? There's the other end. You want to drape this over your desk down here, and the feeder yarn you want to keep up here. So that way you don't confuse the two. I've done that. Not with any of these kits, but in the past I've wasn't looking, and then obviously depending on the tail, obviously you'll run out. Anyway, so you want to keep this nice and tight grip, and then we're going to take our middle and ring finger and just hold the feeder yarn a bit of ways like this. You can keep this a little loose. We're going to take our two fingers here. You're going to lift up the middle, and we're going to turn it down into a loop like this. Then we're going to take our index and middle finger and just grab that feeder yarn and pull it through that loop. So now you have a huge knot. So what we're going to do is you're going to pull this top piece here, and you're going to push the knot towards your thumb. And as we're pulling this piece, the knot is going to get smaller. And again, keep pulling and pushing that knot towards your left thumb. So once you get to a point where you can't pull it anymore, this knot is pretty snug. You can always make it just a little bit more snug. So I'm going to take the tail yarn and pull it a little bit. You're going to feel a little give. You're going to see that knot get a little tighter. You don't have to pull too tight, just enough to get it a little more snug. Then I'm going to hold the knot with my left hand here. And I want to make this into a more manageable loop. So take your feeder yarn and slowly pull it until that loop gets small enough to fit a needle in there. Like that. You can slip your needle through that loop. Alright, so again, keep your tail yarn down here, your feeder yarn up here. Now for this kit, they all, in all these other kits, if you end up doing another one, they're all based on one stitch, and that's the knit stitch. It's one of the basic stitches in knitting, and it's one of my favorites. So stick your second needle into the same hole. If you need more space and it's not fitting, you can pull the knot down to create more space. Slip it through there. See if you have both needles. Now to get into knit position, you want to X your needles. For the knit stitch, you always want the right needle on the bottom and the left needle on top. And when you're knitting, you always want to keep your needles touching. You don't want it to be loose like this, because you'll see later, you'll end up losing your yarn if it's separated. So you want to keep them touching. Alright, I'm going to gather up some yarn around my finger here. And I'm going to show you how to cast on the first 3 stitches, or 3 stitches onto your left needle. Alright, so this is your knitting stance for the knit stitch. Your feeder yarn should be in the back. It shouldn't be in the front. So keep your feeder yarn in the back. We're going to go counterclockwise around the right needle. So from back to forward and down, you're going to feel or hear a snap to get into this little crevice here. So you always keep your needles touching. There's a little gap. You want to house your feeder yarn in there. Alright, then what we're going to do is you're going to slide this left needle over and back the right needle. So let's do that now. Alright, and I'm going to show you what happens when you do that. When you maintain contact with your needle and we're sliding this down the right needle, that right point is pushing that feeder yarn through the loop creating a new stitch for you. So now you have a stitch on the left and a stitch on the right. And what we want to do is move this stitch over to the left. So take your left needle. You can hold this stitch down with your thumb or your finger here to keep from losing it. But you want to lift up this stitch and you want to remove it off the right needle, like that. So now you have 2 stitches on your left needle. Alright, so to do another one, we're going to stick our right needle through this new loop, get into your knit stitch position with an X. You want your left needle on top, your right needle on the bottom, you want your feeder yarn in the back. So we're going to do counterclockwise around the right needle, back to forward, and you're going to either feel or hear a snap to get it into this crevice here. Then we're going to do the same thing again. You want to slide your left needle down and over the back of the right needle. And as you do that, that is going to push your feeder yarn through the loop, creating a new stitch. So now you have 2 stitches on the right and 1 stitch on the left. We want to transfer this stitch over to the left needle. So hold these stitches back here. We're going to put our left needle through the new stitch and lift it off the right needle. And now we have 3 stitches. So let's do this one more time, you guys, with you. Stick your right needle through the new loop. Get into your knit stitch position. Right needle in the back, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back. We're going to go counterclockwise around the right needle. So back to forward and down. Oops, down. You're going to feel or hear it snap. Oh, it snapped that time. Then we're going to drag this left needle down the right, down the back, and you're going to see it's going to push the feeder yarn through that loop, creating a new stitch. And then we're going to throw this stitch onto the left needle, so hold these stitches back. Pick up that stitch with your left needle and remove it off the right needle. So now we have 4 stitches on this needle. So now what I'm going to do is continue with the rest of the stitches at my own pace. You can always rewind the video back so that you can get more comfortable with casting on stitches. And once you're comfortable with that, you can continue on. If you want, off the side of the I was going to say off the side of your camera, off the side of your project, you can just keep practicing down the line. That's how you're going to learn. Just keep practicing. It doesn't need to be a project. Just keep practicing casting on until you feel comfortable, and then you can just undo it and then come back and do your project again. Okay. Or you can make like a million ghosties. Alright, so I'm going to continue with the rest of the stitching. So while I'm doing this, I wanted to mention that my original channel is doing a special giveaway, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I think that the winnings are going to be helpful to you all. So what it is, it's an 18-week giveaway. We're going to be in week 5. Every week you vote which teams are going to win or lose, and then the person that makes the most correct guesses will win the 18-week giveaway. What I'm giving away is there's going to be 1 nail winner, and then there's 1 craft winner. They'll be getting a bunch of goodies depending on whether or not they do crochet, knitting, or both. I'm also going to throw some other crafts in there, and then they'll also get a gift card as well as an hour session on StreamYard to go over any project or issues you might have, and I can work with you one-on-one to do it. The setup is going to be something similar like this. You don't have to show your face at all. You can set up your phone to kind of show me your project, and I can help you walk through it. But yeah, I post those videos every Tuesday, and you have to be publicly subscribed. The voting is open from Tuesday till the end of Wednesday Eastern time. And then I show the standings after the game plays, so you'll know where you are. It's again an 18-week thing, so you may start from the bottom, but you can always work your way to the top, you know, because it's basically just picking, you know, win or loss. So there's about a 50% chance of you winning that. But yeah, so I thought I'd share that. I'm gonna leave my link for that channel in the description box below. And I think I left a little bit of the rules. I don't remember. It's been in all my knitting videos recently, since at least 4 weeks. So definitely check that out. Alright, you always want to keep track of where you are in your project. Always like count your stitching before you move on to the next set of instructions. Gonna count this one more time. All right. So from here, you always want to make sure that your project is growing downward. So you want to see this nice line here. It may not all be uniform at first, and that's okay. When you practice more, it'll start looking more uniform, but you want to make sure that your project is down. This will tend to happen. It starts to like just turn with the movements, so you want to make sure that you straighten this out, because I've accidentally knitted across when this was bunching, and then it just leaves it looking pretty bad. So make sure that it's down. All right, now let's move on to the next row. So what we're gonna do is stick your needle into the new stitch here. We're gonna do a knit stitch. It's basically a knit stitch with a little bit of a change. So get into your knit stitch stance, right needle at the bottom, left needle on top, feeder yarn in the back. What we're going to do is go back to forward around the right needle and down. You're going to feel her here at snap. All right, then we're going to slide the left needle down and back the right needle. All right, it's going to push the yarn through. Oh, and I lost it. Through the loop there, creating a new stitch. Now, before we would lift up this stitch and go on the left, we're not doing that this time. We're going to remove this stitch off the left. So make sure you don't lose these ones. You can hold them down. But I'm going to slide this stitch off the left needle like that. So now we have the one stitch here, and we have all these stitches here. So whatever, for this instruction only, because it could be different for any other instruction, whatever number you start on this side, you want to end up on this side. So let's do this again. Stick your needle into the next stitch, get into your knit stitch position. We're going to go back to forward and down, feel or hear the snap. Then we're going to slide this down and back the right, like that, And then we're going to remove this loop off the left needle. So lift it off. So now we have 2 stitches here, and then we have the remaining stitches here. Alright, so one more time with you guys. Stick your needle into the new stitch, get into your knit stitch position. We're going to go back to forward around the right needle and down, feel or hear it snap. We're going to slide the left over the right. Okay, and then we're going to remove this stitch off the needle like that. So now we have 3 stitches on this side, and we have all these stitches on that side. So we're going to go down the line now, and you can rewind the video if you need to see this over and over again, but this is also something good to practice, because this is actually what we're going to be doing for the remainder of this square. And then after a while, when you become more familiar with what you're doing, you can feel it. The good thing about knitting is that it has this, like, you can get into this auto sensory mode, I feel. I don't even know if that's the right term. But once you get used to doing this, you just kind of automatically, you know, get into the rhythm of it to where you don't really have to look. So I end up making scarves throughout watching a movie. So it's very relaxing, fun, and you don't really have to pay too much attention to it, which is always great. So, but I'm kind of excited for the next couple months. I wouldn't be surprised if it took me longer, because if you had not seen my unboxing video yet, check that out. I have most of the kits that I have received, and it's going to be a definite journey completing them all for you. So I'm sure down the road I'm going to have more requests with emailed instructions, or I'm going to end up finding more kits, especially after the Halloween season. Alright, whoops. Okay. So I completed all the stitches and removed them off the left needle. This is my right needle now. Okay. And when your stitches are off the left and then on the right, that means you've completed a row. So what do we do when we have to start a new row? It's very simple. So you're going to take this needle and you're just going to flip it over and switch it to the left side. So now you're kind of technically looking at the back. And one good way to remember which side is the front and which side is the back side. So if this is the back side, the tail end is on the right. When it's on the right end, the tail is on the left. So to start the new row, flip your project onto the left side. The tail is on the right. We're going to pick up this empty needle, and this is now going to become your right needle, and we can continue on to the next row. So let me just grab some yarn here. Alright, and we're going to repeat the same thing that we just did for the last row. So I'm going to go down the line and pop back in after that, and then afterwards I think I'm going to continue the rest in silence, but we're going to do what we've done, do our knit stitch here, but we are going to remove this stitch off the needle, and we're going to keep going down like this. Now once you get more comfortable, it's going to be more fluid. And see, I'm doing this all in one motion now. But if you're still uncomfortable, there's no problems like breaking it down step by step, slowly but surely. And every now and then, I would recommend counting your stitches just to make sure you have the right number. Sometimes it can magically grow or you can magically lose stitches. So it's better to catch it as soon as than later, because you always want to pick up where the problems are so you don't make them anymore. Alright. Okay, and then once you're done doing those stitches, same thing, empty left, full right. We want to just flip this over to the left. Now, again, you want to make sure that your project is nice and straight. You want it growing downward, so make sure you have that all in a line. Now, one of the mistakes that might happen where you grow stitches is if your feeder yarn is not down and back, it's somehow going like this. Okay, it should never be like up like this, because what happens when we do that? When we do that, you see that this one loop now turns into two visually, you know, and you don't want to accidentally do an extra stitch. I've done that so many times. So you always want to keep your yarn down and back. Even when you're not doing knit stitches, it just gets it out of the way and it's not creating accidental extra stitches. So keep it down, keep it in line, and then you're ready to do your next one. All right, so you guys, I'm gonna go do this in silence now. Feel free to take this time to rewind it back and go step by step if you still need the help, and then you can always fast forward when you're ready to go. Alright, so in the instructions it tells you how long you need to make your rectangle. So I use that measurement. There's a ruler, like I said, in there to help you out. It does give you an approximate number of rows to make, but at the end of the day you really just want to make sure that it is the length that the measurement calls out for. Just because when you are a beginner, your stitches are not going to be consistent. So there's a chance that you did all the rows that they asked for, but it might be a little short or a little too long. So just make sure that you use the ruler to keep track of how long your rectangle is going to be, so that when we put these pieces together, it should be easy and proportional to what the instructions are telling you to make. So from here, I'm going to show you guys now how to cast off. And this is actually a fun part for me, at least. So we're going to knit 2 stitches. So let's just go ahead and knit those 2 right now. And then once here you have 2 stitches on your right needle, we're going to pick up the first one here, and then we're going to leapfrog it over the next stitch right there. Alright, so just lift up that stitch over the next one, and we're going to slip this one off the right needle. You can kind of hold that second stitch down to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, but we're just going to remove that first one off the right needle. And then from here, we're going to remove that stitch off the left needle. So we pretty much just leapfrog that stitch over the next one and off both needles. So to make this work, you always have to have 2 stitches on the right needle. So we're going to knit another stitch. So we have 2 again. Then we're going to lift this stitch up over the next. We're going to lift it off the right needle and then off the left needle. So we're back to 1. So we just have to knit one more time with you guys. Alright, so now we have 2 stitches again. We're going to lift this stitch up and over the next stitch and off the right needle, off the left needle. Back to 1. Alright, so we're going to complete this step till we get to the end of our knitting needle. There'll be nothing left here, and then I'm going to come back in and show you what to do with the last stitch. Alright, so we have our last stitch on our right needle. So what do we do about it? Okay, so we're pretty much done here. So I'm going to take about an inch or so, and we are going to cut off the rest of this feeder yarn. Like that. Then what I'm going to do is we're going to yarn over the right needle like this. So we're taking yarn here, yarning over. So now we kind of looks like we have two loops on here. I'm going to take the left. I'm going to again leapfrog this stitch over the yarn over and off the right needle, off the left needle. Then I'm going to take my right needle and just pull it all out like that. I'm going to pull on this end to tighten up that loop, and that's pretty much it. So you can take your needle, and I'll probably show you this later, but you can weave it in and out of the edges so that it just sits there tucked away. And then we're going to put this rectangle off to the side because the instructions want you to make one more square. It's a much smaller one, and so I'm going to do that one offline, and for video purposes sake I'm going to come back in and we're going to go straight into sewing these pieces together. Alright, so I finished the second square. I sewed in that little piece in and out of the edges like I talked about with the other square. So now we're going to put this stuff together. So take the larger rectangle here. I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the other one. We're going to thread up this small piece and we're going to thread it down the edge. And this is a good way to hide this extra piece here. Okay, and even if there's a little bit more, this is probably going to be on the outside. But we're going to sew these two pieces together. So what you want to do is find the prettier looking side. So this has a little line here, so this will be the prettier side. I am going to fold it in with the prettier side facing in. And this piece I'm going to try to keep on the outside here. And then what I'm going to do is start sewing down the side. We're going to, I don't know what the stitches are called, I'm not a sewer, but we're going to have it wrap around the edge. So keep going down the whole length until you reach the other side. I honestly am not sure how this is gonna work. I know we're making a tube, but we're supposed to make a round looking thing, so I honestly don't know what that's gonna look like at the end. So sometimes doing these are kind of fun because I never know how it's gonna turn out based on what the instructions say. But here we got our tube now. We have to sew the bottom to the tube, and if you have anything that's the diameter or close to the diameter of this tube, I would suggest using that. I have something here. I'm just going to slip it on so that when I sew this, I have some stability, because I can see the circle and that'll help me where I need to sew around it. So if you have anything like that, try to find something. If not, you can also use like a cardboard of the same kind of size and then trace it with a washable marker and do it that way. But we are going to sew all this together. Okay, so once I get to the other side, there is that tail here. I'm going to tie it to. And tie it 3 times. Okay. Then I'm going to remove my little cylinder. So we've got our little piece now. All right. So we just have to then flip this inside out. Like this. And then we have to sew the top. So I'm going to grab the longer piece. Alright, so we have to sew around the tube. I'm going to stick my needle on the edge on the top here on one side, and then we're just going to weave this in and out on the edge Okay. Once we've reached the other side, now we can go and take our stuffing and I'm just gonna kind of scrunch this into a ball since that's what it's supposed to kind of look like. So it's good if you can kind of preform your stuffing to make it easier to shape when you're done. Just gonna stuff that in here. Alright. And once we have that, then we can scrunch this up, pull it till the whole thing is closed. I don't like how that looks. Yeah, it's always interesting to see how knitting is compared to crocheting. Sometimes it looks nice, other times it's like, oh, what is that? Yeah, so then we have to find a place to tie a knot. Would have been nice. All right. So, and then I'm going to go into some random spot, come up on the opposite side, pull that through. I'm going to cut this with my scissor flush to the surface, and then you just have to squeeze it a couple times to hide it. So now this is supposed to be the bottom, I guess, where we sewed the square together. This is the top, so let's try to round this out, even though it's a little bumpy. All right. So had I known the next step, I guess you can always read ahead, and I didn't really thoroughly read it ahead. The other strand, maybe I could have found and kept outside so that we can use it to sew, but I do actually have this left over, so I'll be able to use this. Comment below, let me know if you have yarn left over. Alright, so we're going to have to go a ½ inch above the edge. And we're gonna sew around this. So funny thing is the ruler doesn't have enough a ½ inch, so I'm just gonna eyeball it. I guess maybe 3 rows or 2. But we're gonna go in and out. Okay, so I'm guessing we have to like kind of pull this a little bit to make this little frilly thing. I don't know, it shows a zigzag, so who knows. But I just created the brim for the bottom part of the ghost. This may not be going exactly how they probably wanted me to do this, now that I think about it, but I'm already here, so I'm going to tie a couple of knots. Maybe one more. I'm going to go into some random spot. In through one side, out the other. And I'm going to do the same thing with this other piece. Again, take the scissors, make it flush, and cut. Okay, and then keep this kind of tucked in. So now we have to use the pink. Oops. Here's the pink. I think it's silly because it wants you to make like a loop around your fingers, and they already tie it into this little thing here. They probably should have just done this for you already. So just to make sure, I'm going to undo this little knot, and I'm going to try to separate. I mean, actually, you can kind of picture how big of a yarn you, a bow you want. Maybe I want this a little smaller for the bow. So I'm just going to take my two fingers here, and I have to kind of visualize what it'll look like. But I'm just going to rewrap this. And I think this is a very wasteful and silly way to make a bow. They could have just made like a, again, either pre-made or give you a sticker. I'm going to leave some tail to sew this, so I just need to make sure I leave it long enough to tie the bow and make it, and then enough to sew the bow together. So from this point here, if you want to keep it on your fingers, you can wrap this little excess piece. All right, I'm going to, you see how it's making a number 4 with the loop? I want to pull the end through this loop here so it keeps this down. I want to start pulling. Here you can kind of visually see the middle of the bow, so you can slide this up and down as you need it. But pull it tight and then start wrapping around your bow several times. 1 for security, 2 to give a nice width of the middle part here. Once you've achieved that, we're going to go around one more time. And I've kept my finger here to make a loop because I'm now going to put this end through that loop. And once you pull, it's going to create a knot. So now you have this like permanent, not permanent, but at least you got a nice secure bow. I feel like one side is bigger than the other. All right. So from here, you can take your needle and thread up your needle with the yarn. And I don't know, I think you should put the face first so you can locate the bow. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna put on the eyes first. There's a little stitch from that tube. Let's not pick that side. Okay, we'll put it here. Take your mouth, because that is for sure going to be on the center of the ghostie's face. And then you just want to pick a nice location for it. Okay, we're going to pinch that down and hold it for a few seconds to make sure that every bit of that adhesive is sticking on to as much of this yarn fiber as possible to keep that on there. They do say you can go back in with an embroidery floss. You would have to pick a very skinny needle, because this is so small that it's gonna rip your mouth. So try to find the skinniest needle. Then we're gonna put the eyes in. Okay, and you can orientate any way you want the eyes. And just hold it there again for a few seconds. And then this one. Alright, so now I'm going to take the bow and I'm going to sit this, oh my gosh, how cute, on the corner of the Ghostie's head. This is so cute. Alright, so once I've done that, I'm going to find a moment to tie my knot. And I'm going to come back in here. Random spot, go in one side, out the other. And you know what's crazy? I don't like that this is not staying in. I think I'm going to try to sew this in here. I'm going to go back in. I know this is pink too, so it's, you might see it, but I'm going to try to get in from this underneath spot and grab a stitch. So I went around one stitch. Let me try coming back up here actually near the bow. So then I can just do it all over again and tie a knot. So I really want to pull this center inside. So see how it's like getting sucked in? It's gonna stretch this so that your skirt at least hides that, because it was like sticking out and I don't like it. So keep pulling. And then I'm going to come in here. And you know what? I wish I can fix this hole. So let me try to see if I can do that. And I'm using the brightest color possible. So I'm going to try to sew underneath it. Hopefully that you won't see the pink. Okay, so I've got that down. See, it looks cute on the side. I just have to now kind of find a way to sew the underside of this hole. There's a huge hole. once I reach the other side, let me try pulling this closed. Okay. And then I gotta tie my knot somehow. So I'm gonna try to sew back down into this bow area. And I'm gonna tie my knot. Okay. Let's squish this stuffing to fill out just spots that we need filling out too. Let's make this bow look not so messy. This is a little sunken a little bit more than I wanted, but that's okay. So that is it. It's cute. Here's the end result, you guys. Comment below. Let me know how it went. But yeah. So again, if there is a request that you'd like to make, comment below. If you don't want to wait for that video to drop because I'm trying to find it, you can always email me a clear image of the instructions so that I'll be able to help you out and make a video out of that. And also I wanted to remind you guys that my original channel is doing a special giveaway. There's going to be one winner and one nail winner. So I post those videos every Tuesday, and you're supposed to vote on a football team to see who's going to win or lose. The voting will end the end of Wednesday night, and I always post an update of where everybody is on their voting. So it could be anyone's game. It's an 18-week football season, so right now we're going to be doing week 5, so there's still plenty of opportunity to get ahead and win. If there's multiple winners that have the same, like the highest and the same number of guesses correct, I am going to be putting those names on the wheel and selecting 2 winners that way. But yeah, definitely one nail winner and one craft winner. So if we already have a nail winner, I'm going to have to find out who's going to be doing, who's going to be wanting crafts for a giveaway, and pull names from that if there's similar guesses. So the winners will be getting a bunch of goodies on top of a gift card, and then an hour one-on-one session via StreamYard. It's going to be a setup just like this. You can set up your phone to just focus on your project, and I can help you out that way. If you have a channel or thinking about starting a channel, I could, you know, if you don't need help with projects, I could help you out with that instead. So at any rate, thank you so much, you guys, for watching. This is Isms by Josie. Please share, like, and subscribe for future videos, and I'll see you again next time. Thanks. Bye.